My name is Kent French, and I'm senior pastor here at the United Parish in Brookline. And we often say on Sunday mornings, no matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. That is true every day of the week. It's true every hour. And we seek not just to say those words, but to mean them. So we're glad that you've come today. We're also grateful to host, again, the Brookline Coalition for Peace and the good work you're doing to, amen. The good work you're doing to keep the conversation going, to keep us informed and thoughtful, to open our minds, hearts, and also our sensibility. I just want to tell you a little bit about this building, just briefly, which is that we seek to be a host to as many community organizations as we can handle. You'll see our wonderful building manager, Rebecca, around here, and she often coordinates that. If you had been in here on a, yes, there she is right there. If you were to come in here on a Saturday afternoon, you would see that Handel and Haydn has its youth choruses. Handel and Haydn is the oldest choral one of the oldest choral organizations in the country. If you were to come in here on a Friday or Saturday, you'll see that our thrift store, the only thrift shop in Brookline, is booming. Many people, and it's really a center, a community hub for many people, being able to buy affordable clothes that are for resale, but they also take clothes they can't use and keep them out of landfills, like 19 tons to give away. If you were to come in here on a Wednesday, you would see this is the waiting room for the main location of the Brookline Food Pantry, which now serves about 750 families, in addition to their weekend backpack program for youth. If you go out that door, you would find the Brookline Community Development Corporation that's trying to work on affordable housing in our town. If you come down to the basement or during a weekend, you would see a performance by Art Barn, which empowers young people to find their voices and to share it through artistic means. And those are just some of the 35 organizations in our space. But at the heart of this space is where we share our hopes and dreams, our fears, our disappointments. It's where we come to bring people together for baptisms and weddings, and also to send people off into the next life. It's a place where we try to remember our deepest values and what we're committed to, which the guy we follow, Jesus of Nazareth, said that one of the most important things we can do is love our neighbor. And so in that spirit, we welcome you all tonight to our author and speaker and for their conversation, because we believe in turning neighbors into friends. So we're glad you've come tonight, and you're welcome to join us anytime in this room that you would like to. Are we having someone from the Peace Coalition to welcome our guests? And then I've been asked that we might move this out of the way so they can see the assembled folks better. Excellent. Again, welcome. We're glad you're here today. Good to have you in this space. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jamila. On behalf of the Brookline Peace Coalition, I want to welcome everyone this evening. I first need to thank Pastor French and all of the staff at United Parish for their constant support of our events. It is regrettable that hosting a book talk could be viewed as controversial, but we are grateful for institutions like UP who see the value in every story, all experiences, and give us the space here to share them. We're going to hear this evening from a variety of voices, all with personal and professional experience and expertise around Palestine, because at this moment, it is so crucial to keep talking about Palestine, its history, and its tragedy, also the seemingly unbreakable strength and resilience of its people. Sireen Sawalha has given us an incredibly rich and heartbreaking story in My Brother, My Land. She describes the experiences of her family, starting with the brave trek her mother took returning to their home near Jenin, their daily routines that center food and sibling interactions in the shadow of a growing occupation, and finally, the path chosen by her brother and all its tragic implications. These are a tapestry woven with the complexities of what it is to be Palestinian. Sireen is a teacher and a mother, and we are incredibly honored to hear directly from her today. Our moderator, Rami G. Khouri, has been preparing to take Sireen's very personal narrative and open it up to the broader geopolitical themes it evokes. Rami is a journalist who appears regularly on Al Jazeera and Democracy Now! And in print for several leading publications. He is a distinguished fellow at the American University of Beirut's Issam Fares Institute. Perhaps most importantly, when I asked him to moderate for us today, he responded that, quote, "Anything you suggest, Jamila, is a good idea." So I'd like my husband and daughter and anyone else in the room to take note, because this is a very smart guy, yeah? But it was another Palestinian journalist who penned Sireen's account. We will also have an opportunity to hear from Sami via video a bit later in the program on why he felt this story was so crucial to document. Of course, we will start with a reading. Sireen asked for a strong young voice to do this. Kaylee Tada has been a bookseller and event host at a local landmark, the Brookline Booksmith, for 2 years. We also need to thank the Booksmith for their unwavering commitment to the importance of hearing all perspectives. Thank you. I'll quote Kaylee to say that the Booksmith is a valuable institution for community building. It is always looking for creative ways to use the store's platform to make Brookline a safer, more inclusive neighborhood. We are embodying that spirit here today. Thank you all for coming out. Sireen is going to kick us off, and everybody enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. And I just want to say a couple of words before we start. As Palestinian, we all have stories, and many. If each one of us will write their story, it will be millions of books. But this is a unique story. It's a small family in a small village. And it shows the impact of the occupation over the family and the separation of the husband and the wife and the children. So usually we don't hear stories from a Palestinian who live in small villages and in stories like that. I hope you will like it. I hope you will share it. I hope this story will inspire you to keep talking about the Palestinian struggle and the Palestinian right for thank you very much. The Palestinian right to live and enjoy their land and their home and their children growing up. So I took this responsibility. I always say we live to tell. And I feel my duty and my responsibility always to tell the Palestinian story and keep my family, my brother, my land always in my heart. And I hope you will keep it in your heart and your prayer and your hard work to end the struggle and the occupation of the Holy Land, the land of, which is, we all know, the land of all and the hearth and the birth of all the religion. So thank you very much. I hope you'll enjoy it, and we'll take it from here to start the reading.
We're beginning in a visitor's room in an Israeli prison in 1999. Returning to the prison consumed all of Yusuf's energy. Afterward, she remained in bed all day. But like the full moon, she had to return. She had to see her son, for in his absence, her chest was tight, her breaths suffocating. Habibi, ya ani, how are you? She asked him excitedly. I'm good. God makes things easy, Iyad replied. His face lit up with joy, then he paused and glanced around. Where's the Hajj? He asked his mother. Abuk Kantaban, your father was tired the past 2 days. He didn't think he would be able to see you, replied Yusuf. Iyad met his mother's words with a slight frown and lowered eyebrows. He nodded. His father had been dealing with diabetes for over 10 years. Sireen examined her younger brother as he exchanged words with their mother. She could see him panning the room as if still expecting their father to emerge from the shadows. His broad shoulders shrugged at the news. She saw her eyes in him, earthy, with a blend of green and brown now shimmering against his short, dark beard. It was hard to imagine, despite all the years that had gone by with him in prison, that my brother had been involved in resistance activities, that my brother was a prisoner of war. She thought back to the last time she saw him free, a time before she had left for the US. The two of them were brother and sister, this was true, but they may as well have been strangers leading separate lives, strangers who left indelible marks on each other. Sireen had been around in Iyad's early years. She had spent many hours telling him stories and taking him on imaginary adventures, but it had been a decade and a half since they'd lived under the same roof, a decade and a half since their paths began to diverge. There is one story I always remember, the story of Shatar Hassan, the brave, smart, hardworking Hassan. In my version, Hassan falls in love with the king's daughter. The king agrees to let them marry on condition that Hassan is able to retrieve a stolen jewel at the peak of a mountain. 7 hills, each guarded by a hyena that Hassan has to outwit, stands between him and the peak. It is a near impossible task. Sometimes the story took me 2 nights to complete, and Iyad listened to every word. Shatar Hassan is ultimately able to outmaneuver the hyenas, free the jewel, and live happily ever after with the king's daughter. Sireen, I miss your stories, Iyad blurted out. Sireen smiled. It was as if the two of them were little again. He wanted her to talk about her life, but the prison walls did not inspire her. She glanced at her mother. Although she knew there was a tenderness underneath, their relationship had always been rocky. She did not want to discuss her problems in the US around her, and Iyad would likely not understand or might take their mother's side anyway. She decided the less they knew, the better, so she stuck with generalities. Mother and sister sat with Iyad for over an hour that day. His face was bright and alive. The two women were all smiles. They all laughed together, and he felt rejuvenated. But there were moments when they avoided eye contact and fidgeted, studied their hands, repeated questions they'd already asked about Iyad's health and whether he had enough food. When they felt the sting of the place and were reminded of the walls around them, walls within the walls of occupation, within which each of their lives were framed. Before they left, Iyad pleaded with Sireen to help him. Sireen, you have to get me out. Use your contacts in the US. Don't leave me here.
Thank you so much. Nice job. So I want to talk for a few minutes about this scene. When the book came out, before they came out, during the editing, they sent me the book in order of 1967 and all that, and I says, no, there is a scene I would like to be the opening of my book, even it's moving forward in the book. And Sami said, why? And I said, that means a lot to me in my life, that my book will start with that scene, and I'm going to tell you why. In 1990, I got married and I moved to the United States, and I got a job in the United Nations. And for every Palestinian, their daughter is in the UN means she can do magic. And Iyad thought, oh wow, my sister is in the UN, she's going to do the magic and get me out of here. But why I want to visit? Because in that week, I was able to contact Amnesty International and Red Cross and said, I'm going to visit to Palestine this summer. I don't want to see my brother from behind wall. I want to sit with him. Can you organize with the Israeli government to have a personal one-on-one visit? Back and forth email, I was guaranteed 1 hour with Iyad. So I took my 2 children, Basil and Zaid, and we left to Palestine. I got from the border, Al-Jisr in Jordan to Kufr Ra'i. I'm so excited. My mom and dad says, are you crazy? They're not going to let you, just like you're dreaming. I insist I'm going tomorrow. So my mom called the taxi in town. We're in Kufr Ra'i. It's 20-minute car ride without checkpoints and borders to the Jenin Red Cross office, where the buses from Red Cross take you to the prison. That night, my mom and dad back and forth argued, who's going to accompany me? I have 2 children, I don't know the road, she's dreaming, she doesn't know how long is the trip. My dad refused. He's diabetes, he's tired. It takes them a whole day, the visit from early morning to midnight to come back, and he always gets headache and tired for 2 days after that. By 8 o'clock at p.m., my mom gave up and said, I will go with you. So she said, just let the kids sleep. She ran to the kitchen. She grabbed Lebanese, cheese, za'atar, all of the things, cucumber, and couple of blankets. And she said, don't wake them up in the morning. Just put their clothes, leave them in their pajamas. I did not know what she's talking about morning. 2:30 in the morning, a taxi is beeping. We're getting up, grabbing the kids sleeping. My mom, the 2 blankets she grabbed, her briar mats and the food. And we hurried to the taxi. We get to the Red Cross in Jenin. And I still remember it was next to the refugee camp. I saw hundreds of parents, mostly old with little children with them, because you're allowed to only visit 2 adults, 1 child. And my mom is pushing it, and she's like, okay, I know you're gonna be coming from the US, you respect the line, you take terms, but here nothing. You push, you be the first one to visit. So she got to there, registered our name that she's not visiting, but her daughter and her 2 children is having a private visit. So they put my name, the buses came. Oh my God, the condition of the buses. Windows broken, the seat is ripped, places for women and children, but the men stand in the middle or sit in the steps. So again, another push. My mom get to the bus, reserve a seat, and I have to give her my kids from the window. Get to the bus, and the bus is moving. It's fitting like 200 people in the same bus. Like, I don't know how we were in the top of each other. My mom is sitting with Zaid, is the younger one, in her lap. I'm sitting with Basil, 7 years old, in my lap. We get to Tulkarem, and there is a corn open field, huge corn open field. Everybody get off the bus, waiting for the Israeli bus to come from the other side, another Red Cross bus, but from Israel. And then the woman, I knew why, my mom took the blanket, spread the blanket. Who did not pray Fajr prayer, start praying in the mat, and everybody. She has eggs, she has cheese, she has za'atar, she has fruits, figs. Everybody, she's put the breakfast in this middle of nowhere. If you need a bathroom, between the cornfield, and we had breakfast. Because as soon as we get to the Israeli side, is just another chaos. So anyhow, the buses came, much better condition, air conditioned. And we're talking about middle of August, very hot. We took the bus, and I'm like, my stomach is, you know, how you're nervous, you don't know what's gonna happen. When we get to there, he was in Ashkelon. When I said get to there, from Jenin to the border of Gaza, you're talking about 4 hours in and off, stopped and searched by the Israeli military. We get there, get off the door of the bus, pushing each other, who's gonna visit first. If you first visit at 10:30 in the morning, you could be home by 6, 7 in the evening. If you don't get to the first visit and you visit the second visit, you're back home by 11, 12 midnight. So my mom wants the first visit. Get to the window. I'm so proudly presenting my American passport. He told me, get the F out of my face. You're Palestinian. You visit like everybody else, 20 minutes from behind the fence. And because you did not register to that visit, we'll see you next month. It's once a month, the visit. Everybody, the woman, we told you, all the older women, you know how my mom says, you see, I told you wasted our time, and I'm exhausted. And I would not say, take no as an answer. You're talking about 1990, there is no cell phone, no cell phone. I want to call the UN. I want to scream in somebody. I want to argue. I want to fight. Like, I'm so upset. So in our way in the highway, I saw a payphone. And I was wondering, we're in nowhere, why the payphone is there. So I guess for military tanks, if they break down. I left the kids with my mom, and I ran 20 minutes straight in the middle of nowhere to the payphone. I called collect to Jerusalem Red Cross. They told me to get me the number of Tel Aviv Red Cross, Tel Aviv to the UN. I'm calling collect. I'm crying next to the phone. I said, I must visit him. I took all this trip to see him. And he's been in prison since 1994, and I did not see him since 1994. And no way I'm not gonna sit with him. So they asked me to stand next to the phone. 45 minutes later, a phone came in and says, go to the main gate. Somebody named Janet, she's gonna receive you, not to the visitor. I rushed back, she was there. She said, who's with you? After all this stress, I've been hours running like crazy. I says, what she mean, who's with me? She has in the sheet Basil and Zaid with me. I says, my 2 children and my mom on the other side. She said, call them. Even my mom? Yes, call them. So I called my mom, and my mom, why are you dragging me to all the way where the soldiers and the food and the lawyer enter? I was like, just come with us. We came in. The night before, my mom insisting that Iyad must try something from the land. So she picked a couple of plums from the trees, and she had one in each pocket of my kids. And she said, when they search you, the Israeli soldier, cry and hold to the fruit. And when you see Iyad, give it to him. I want him to eat from the trees. So when we get to the research point, they took Zaid, Basil, more mature, hold to it. So it passed. My mom is standing there. She's so excited the fruit is passing. She's not realizing she's visiting. Until now, she's excited. Sireen, diri balik, be careful. Let Iyad have it. And I was like, she's so funny. She doesn't know she's going to be with us. And then they told her to visit. She's in the ground crying. She cannot hold herself straight. They took us in, put us in a room, small room, 1 table with 4, 5 plastic chairs. And then they got Iyad. I left Iyad 1990, this little kid. And I'm the big sister. And he's walking 6'2", brown, dark coffee, prison clothes, hand and feet chain. And when he walked in, he said, Kasrani, you're getting shorter. That's the first word he had told me. Because I ran to hug him. And then he's right in the floor, hugging and kissing my mom's feet. She's still crying from the shock, but she's not enjoying it. The first word come, Yaret Abuk hon. I wish your father is here. He need that visit more than me. And she kept saying, I told him to come and visit. She kept blaming my dad why he refused to accompany me. She will prefer he visit instead of her. Even she did not see her son for years. And the moment of hugging and kissing for 20 minutes. But when he went down to her feet and kissed her, Samhini, forgive me. I'm putting you through a lot of things. She's been 8 years back and forth, visit after visit, court, military courts, and all of that. But in the same time, this is not the kid I left in 1990. Mature, wants to speak about religion, asked me to get him the translation of the Quran from Mutwalli Sha'rawi in Egypt. Asked me my life in the UN, who I met from presidents and delegates and things like that. And then asked me when I remember our childhood, Shatir Hassan. When we were young, to put the kids to sleep, you don't say the monster under the bed like we say in the US maybe, or read a story from a children's book. We say, Al-Jaysh Jai, Ruh Nam. The military Israeli soldiers are coming, go to sleep or they're gonna take you. Literally, that's my mom's sentence to put the kids to sleep. So my job was to tell them a story. And we have a neighbor in Farid, was great storyteller. So she will tell me something, and I will add to it 2-3 days. So Shatir Hassan, he's a brave young man who is young in the village, but he wanna marry this most beautiful girl who her dad is asking for the highest gold in the mountain, the jewel for her hand for marriage. But I want to say it to my brother and sisters because it gives you a lot of bravery. So I want to say just one little in Arabic. The Arabic book is coming tomorrow in Kuwait published, and I insist the whole story to be written in it because it's really cute. Shatir Hassan will come to the first mountain of hyenas where he'll say, Salamu alaikum. And the hyenas will say, Lola salamak sabak kalamak lakhal jbal sudit arish adamak. And Iyad will hide under the blanket and laugh. So he will say, peace be upon you. And the hyenas will answer, if you did not greet me with God's words, the whole 7 mountain will hear me crushing your bones. Checking. And then because he's a kind person, he will trim his hair, he will clean his face of the hyenas, and the hyenas will say, thank you for your kindness, and I'll let you pass to the second hyenas. There's 7 of them in 7 mountains. And then with his kind work and heart and honesty, he will get to the 7, get the jewel, marry Sitt al-Husn wal-Jamal, and live with Thabat wa Nabat, married the beautiful girl and have children and happy life. So he wants me to tell those stories. It's going to take him out of the wall of the prison, because that's how I took them out of being afraid under the blanket of the Israeli Jaysh coming to arrest you if you don't fall asleep. And we live in a gas lamp, no TV, no radio, until I finished to college. My village did not have that. To end, we're leaving, and he said, ما تنسيني. Sorry, don't forget me here. Iyad was sentenced to 215 years. And he thought he would never get out. Like all the prisoners, we here with the prisoner exchange. That was the last time I saw Iyad. And that's why I like, nobody will forget Iyad after you read this book. Thank you.
Iyad came home on the second day of Sireen's visit. They met with warm smiles, a comfortable affection in the crinkling of their eyes. They hugged tightly, and Iyad kissed her forehead. Yusuf had made Sireen's favorite dish for lunch, maklaba, and they spent the rest of the afternoon catching up. Later that night, everyone went to sleep except for Sireen and Iyad. The house was quiet, and they sat under a dim, flickering kerosene light in the glass-enclosed balcony, enjoying a June breeze through 2 of its open windows. Iyad was wearing a gray tracksuit and was bent over to fix his crew socks. He then turned to his sister and asked, "Can you make me dinner?" "Really?" I exclaimed. "No way, it's way too dark." "Yalla, you barely see me," Iyad was persistent. "Please don't make me get up, I miss your food." He gave me a gentle smile and was being annoying. "No you don't," I said. "Khalas, I'm tired." "Yalla, please, for me?" He continued to nag. In the end, I caved and said fine, but I told him it wouldn't be anything fancy, just fried eggs, labna, and a plate of ziyat o zatar. Then suddenly we heard dogs bark in the distance. Sireen startled, and the barking grew much louder. Iyad looked in his sister's eyes. She could see the worry in the lowering of his eyebrows and the biting of his lip, but his steady shoulders showed the confidence of a man who had been in this situation many times before. The barking was followed by the sounds of engines revving as the vehicles gained speed. Iyad and Sireen looked out and saw the lights flare from 2 military vehicles rumbling up the road. Iyad slipped on his shoes, double-knotted the laces, and clicked the back door open. I had just enough time to dip 2 pieces of bread in zatar mixed with oil. I slipped them into my brother's hand. He grabbed a banana, his favorite fruit, and set off. From the back exit, he passed Fareed's house and the houses of 2 other neighbors. Then it was just him, a long winding path, and the dark hills ahead, with no homes and not a soul in sight. Soldiers knocked on the front gate, disturbing the jasmine tree. Sireen took her time to open it. When she did, they questioned her briefly, but when a neighbor's dog barked behind the house and further up the road, they knew Iyad had snuck out. They hurried back to their vehicle in chase. Iyad sprinted up the main path and slipped out of sight, using shrubs to hide his path. He melted into the rugged landscape, gliding in the darkness through the rocky paths he had used many times before. In a short few minutes, he had scrambled down the hill on which his home was perched and made it halfway up another hill. Military vehicles hunted him down the dirt path, moving slowly. The soldiers scanned the area, but their view was limited. as they were unwilling to trek into the valley. Iyad came to a cave within one of the surrounding hills. He entered and covered the opening with rocks and branches. There he waited, passing the time trying to pick za'atar out of his teeth and hoping snakes in the wild would let him be. By the time the military had finished scanning the area from afar, he had dozed off. The next morning, he walked into the family house, covered in white dust, and Sireen could breathe again.
Thank you. This scene, 1990. The first scene was 1999, 9 years later. In 1990, in October, I got engaged for a Palestinian who live in the United States in New York. And I'm coming to visit, I'm moving back to the US with him, but I'm coming to visit from Amman, Jordan. I got my college education in Jordan, in Amman, and then I worked in Amman, and I'm leaving for just to see my family for a few days, to say goodbye, because I don't know if I will ever come back from the US, what could happen to them. So I arrived, and usually we travel in Thursday, because Friday is the family gathering. After Jum'ah prayer is Maklube. Every Friday, even until now. When we come back to the US, my children says, no more Maklubi for the rest of the year. We eat it every Friday in your mom's house. And then my sisters come. When you read the book, we were 13 children. We'll talk about it maybe in the questioning about big family and the land and the importance of children. But, so I arrived Thursday, and Iyad is not there. And then Friday we have the Maklube after the Jum'ah prayer, and everybody's there, and Iyad is not there because Iyad is wanted by the Israeli soldiers. He's already joining First Intifada, which is we throw rocks, and he's very active with the Fahd al-Aswad in Jenin. And Iyad is wanted by the Israeli military, and he's in the run. And by the way, it did not last long. That's the time they arrested him. He was 15 years old, and then he ended up sentenced, that long sentence. So Friday after Jum'ah prayer, we ate and done, and later in that day, Iyad is sneaking back to the house because he is in and out in dark, so Israeli doesn't spot him. And he come, he's hungry, and he wants dinner. And dinner for us, Lebanese, eat and za'atar, eggs, and just kitab, yalla, make it. Out of the 13, I'm the only one look like Iyad. Green eyes, olive skin, curly hair. I don't know how, but we are two. Even he's the third boy in the family. I'm the third girl in the family. But the day he was born, I fell in school, and I was next to my mom in labor when she delivered him. And I was literally the first one saw him coming out. Yeah, literally, I was broken my front teeth, and I was like second grade, and I was there, so I was the first one. But stayed that connection together, so we stayed friends. Anyhow, so I made the food, and suddenly the dog started barking. Even last year when I was in Palestine, we were visiting my cousin Hiyam, and the dog started barking. And suddenly everybody disappeared. I totally forgot. And they said, الجيش دخل. The Israeli soldiers just entered the village. And literally, I locked 6 tanks, one after the other. People start running in different directions. It's so quiet. It's a small village, our house up in the mountain, and the wild dogs give you the alarm, a stranger just entered. And Iyad got that signal, opened the side door from Farid, my neighbor house, and run down and disappear. They walk in, and they start looking all over the house. When they walk in, around 20 of them walk in, 100 outside, but they're always the one in the front is Durs from Druze, because he speaks Arabic fluently, and he's the one who can push and shove the woman around. My mom always tell my father to stay aside because they could hit him and harm him, but in that time, they were not push and shove older women. So my mom will be the strong woman right facing them. But they heard the dog barking again. They knew Iyad already disappeared somewhere. This last summer, one of the prisoners who came out and spent 17 years in the same prison with Iyad in Ascalon, he's out, took me to visit that cave. I was shocked. Iyad got few bags of concrete, fixed the ground, fixed it really nicely. It fit 20 people. It's not just he thought about himself, he thought about all the kids who are wanted so they can run and hide. And for me, I talk about it in the book, how the Israeli infested the land with snakes and poison snakes. So the farmers, when they go to the land, we get bitten, and I fear snakes. So the guy tried to tell me, just walk in. Iyad used to be there. I was like, how he wasn't afraid of the snakes? How he slept there? How he dozed and fell asleep there? But Iyad always was in the run. One time, Suzanne from Dubai is visiting my older sister, and my son from Saudi Arabia. Their kids is there, and we're a big family. We don't have beds, mattresses in the floor. They knock, and Iyad did not have time to run. I'm telling you what happened. My mom lifted the blankets, lifted the kids' feet. Iyad lay down in the middle, put his feet covered, hold his breath. They came in. They uncovered the face, kids. The feet, kids. They apologized, left the room. Iyad there. Another time, they pushed the metal door so hard, it made a corner. Iyad stayed in that corner for over 45 minutes. They tear down everything. When they tear down everything, I have pictures. I always show it to people. My mom, as all, we love plants in the house. They come in and they shoot all her plants. One time they came in, she has a nice cocktail table, glass just bought from Naples. Oh, you got a new furniture, 20 bullets in it. And she sit and cry, and she start collecting. I have pictures of her nice Persian rugs full of the dirt. So they do that. They tear her rice to her flour, her sugar to her olive oil. They mess up her kitchen when they don't find him because they're angry, and then they leave. So another time, he's holding in the corner, the metal door made a corner. He's there, search all the house, and left. The third time, that was the funny, because we have mattresses on the floor and blanket. We call it nasbe lifrash, where we fold all the clothes built in the wall, and it has like bed sheet. They put it as a curtain to cover. She quickly picked up everybody up from their sleep. She tried so much that he's not being arrested. And she put him in the bottom, and she piled all the blanket, the mattresses, those soft, small mattresses for him to, and held his breath. And he tried. And he was for 2 years in the run. 2 years in the run. But then in the end, they arrested him. So this talks about young boy, I'm talking 15 years old. You're still barely freshman in high school, running and being always in the run and being always alert, what's next, that my Aunt Aida used to call him Tarazan. That's his nickname, Tarazan. He was always fast, he's always there. But the funny thing, when he came in, I had this beautiful leather jacket. My sister was in her honeymoon in Morocco, and she asked me, what do you need gift? And I asked for a leather jacket. As soon as he walked in, he spot the leather jacket. He tried it. It fit him. He's 15 yet, not the 6'2". I saw him in the prison. He tried it, says, Iyad, come on, it's a girl jacket. No, I like it, it's a girl jacket. So the next morning, I'm leaving to Jordan. The Jisr, the car for the check borders, is coming at 4:30 in the morning after Fajr prayer. I don't want to say goodbye to my family. I'm the first one to go this far. I'm crying. I said, don't wake up any of my brother and sister. I'm in my knee to each one in their mattress on the floor, kissing and crying. The only is up is my mom and dad. And then I get to his mattress, it's empty. Iyad is not there. So I said to my mom, where is Iyad? She says, look. I looked to the hanger, my jacket is gone. So Iyad stole the jacket, wear it, run away, did not say goodbye, so I don't see my jacket and take it from him. So he ended up, when they capture him, with the jacket. So there is a picture in the book, in prison. The prison wall in a horrible condition. He put his wall blanket in the wall, all this flower, beautiful wall blanket, wear my jacket, and send me a picture to the US with a letter, your jacket is with me. So that's the little memory I have with Iyad. And I'm sorry, as much as I did this book talk in England, in Australia, in the Middle East, I cannot not to talk about Iyad and not to cry, or even go home today and all memory coming back about me and his relationship with him. So that jacket stayed with him in prison, and I put a picture in the book actually with that jacket. So thank you very much. Thank you.
My mother decided to take the 3 of us girls back to Palestine. Suzanne, born in 1961, and Maysoon, born in 1964, could both walk, but I was still a baby and had to be carried. Mother carried me in a sling on her back and began to walk home. She took nothing with her. We took a car from Jabal Hussein in Amman to a village in the Jordan Valley. There, my mother paid someone to help with my sisters as we crossed the narrow stream of the Jordan River on foot. It was dark. I think my mother intended it to be this way so we would not be spotted. She walked with us through the river, no bus, no car, no push cart. Me on her back and my sisters alongside us. She was intent on keeping her land.
I added this because you did not meet Sami. You're going to meet Sami soon. And I always tell his mom and everybody, he's like my fourth child. I have 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, and he's mine. When he was a student in Princeton University, we met, and I think Sami will speak about it in a few minutes in a video. I put this scene, when Sami is with me, we read different scene. When Sami come with me for the first time in Kufr Ra'i, to meet my family, this family I've been talking about it, and the reaction of my mom bringing a stranger man to my house, because when you read the book, you're going to see how much my mom was overprotective. So in this, today I replaced a couple of little short one to give you an idea how important is the land. 1948, my dad from Nazareth. I always make jokes and laugh that I'm sure I look like Jesus and Mary more than anybody who's taken that land and came from Europe or other part of the world with my olive skin and my curly hair. So my father left. My grandfather has 2 wives. The first one got sick she has 2 boys, Abdullah and Abdul Karim. And then his new wife from Jenin, which is my grandmother, we call her Habuba, the lovely, because she has blue eyes and she was so beautiful and always smiling. And married her and have only my father. So my father was the only child. I just found out a few weeks ago that people from 1948 or Nazareth, they used to marry from Jenin or the West Bank so they can escape serving in the Ottoman Empire military, which is, I did not know that until recently. I met one of those historians. Anyhow, so he escaped with my grandmother to Jenin, but the 2 brothers, Abdullah and Abdul Karim, stayed in Nazareth. Got married, lived and died in Nazareth. So my mom married my dad. She was 16 years old when she got married and already had 3 girls. They call her Al Banat. She has no boys, so it's shame. My grandmother is pushing my dad to remarry and take another wife to bring boys. My mom had it with my grandmother, so she took us to Amman, Jordan. My father in Abu Dhabi since the late 50s. He's going to do her visa and paperwork, and she's staying in a hotel, and she's going to join him in Abu Dhabi. No way she can stay in Kufr Ra'i anymore with that mother-in-law. She heard we lost 1967 war. She says, what we lost in Nazareth is not gonna we lose again. She has over 200 acres of land. My grandmother and my father, all the money they do, they keep saving and buying land. And she just built 2 rooms and a bathroom and a kitchen. 2 rooms. One for the guests when they come with mattresses in the floor. The other one was a mattress for sleeping, and the bathroom was a hole in the ground. We're still beginning, and she want to save that house. Imagine the 2 room. I'm thinking about how people in Gaza, we're seeing building going down. We're seeing homes they built all these years. She decided, I don't care, I'm going back. So why I said that scene, every time we misbehave, قطعت الشريعة عشانكم. I crossed the Jordan River for you. Yeah, I did this for you. I saved the home. I saved the land. So, but imagine, you're talking about, she was married 16, 3 girls. I'm still not even a year old. Suzanne and Maysoon could walk, and she will walk during the night in the dark, so the Israeli does not capture her. And then she will hide during the night. And I still remember, this is the last scene, so we can take question. She said she left everything in the hotel because she cannot carry anything, but she took a jar of mayit bandora, tomato base. They used to cook it in slow fire, wood fire outside, so it will be smoked until it's thick and dry, and they sprinkle it with salt and olive oil. So she has a jar of that, few bread, And whenever we're hungry, she will put the tomatoes like peanut butter and jelly for you guys and your children now, us tomato paste with bread. And that's what we ate and my sister ate. Until now, Suzanne in Dubai, when she come to Palestine, she want that. That's the memory of her. But when we were crossing the Jordan River, Suzanne just got this beautiful new shoes from Amman. And when she crossed, she lost one. And she's crying. And my mom always talked about struggling, shutting Suzanne's mouth so that Ray does not hear us, and then holding me and getting off and cross. And when we get to Kufr Ra'i, she found nobody in their homes. And she was wondering, and then she found out the whole village under a field of figs. For 4 days they're living there, fearing of what they've been hearing about. Oh, we're gonna happen to us like Deir Yassin massacre in 1948. There's gonna happen to us like this and that. So all these stories brought fears that the people were for 4 days hiding under the trees. But to end it, my mom and my dad never joined. He stayed in Abu Dhabi, and we stayed in Kufr Ra'i, and he will come as a visitor every summer. And she raised the children, and that's why she has a child, 13 children. Every time he come in the summer, she's pregnant, she's delivering the next year. So we ended up in Kufr Ra'i being raised by this great woman. She's the land for me. When I call it my brother, my land, she's my land. She preserved the land. She raised 13 children, all of them with college education except Iyad, and he tried to finish his high school in prison, and he faced a lot of struggle. But to show you how much hard she worked to preserve the house and the land, and how hard for the Palestinian now, and settlers kicking them out of the land, cutting the olive trees she's always proud of. And that's how I want to end it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you. Thank you so much for your reading, beautiful reading. And now you will meet my other son, Sami. He is in Qatar, could not join us.
I think you are in fantastic hands with Sireen, who will lead you tonight. I think it's you're in for a night that's full of emotions, I think. So, for me, this book, the reason I wanted to write this book when I met Sireen, I think there's two quick reasons I can say interwoven. One is that, as you'll see, Sireen is a fantastic storyteller, hakawati in Arabic, right? A storyteller, and knows how to kind of really get into the granular details of the story and give you details of everyday life and so on. And so in her, there's someone who is able to really get you close to a Palestinian experience. I wouldn't say the Palestinian, but a Palestinian experience. And alongside that, I think you'll see also in reading this book that it's the quintessential sort of Palestinian experience, in the sense that her family and her, they go through many of the things you hear in the news, right? So house demolition, a sibling who is in the resistance, issues around armed resistance. You get a taste of prison life, but you also get a taste of everyday life. You get you get the sense of people on their land, persisting on their land. You get the sense of people who are harvesting, right, their land, a family that's not just a sort of city, this kind of city life. And that was, I think, just connected to kind of themes that interested me particularly, or what I mean, there are many things that you can get out of this book. For me, and really thinking about the present moment, and as you all sit here tonight and reflect on what is happening in Gaza, what is happening in the West Bank, what is happening to Palestine, I think for me this book, the question of resistance and how how people resist and why people resist, and the continuity of resistance really stands out as I reflect myself on the book that I wrote and why I wrote it, to see sort of the connections between the generations of people who resist. But at the same time, for you to get a taste, and this was also something that motivated me and what I wanted people to see, is to get a taste of the kind of everyday living in Palestine. The hardships, but also how people kind of manage the mundane as well, right? Like in Sireen's story and her family's story, you'll see this sense of how people in the villages till the land, how they harvest the olives, how they pick the cherries, so those kind of things, and how they get by within the occupation. So those are some of the things I think I hope you'll also, I think, see tonight in talking to and listening to Sireen. Some of this will come out. I think that's what I'd have to say in the short time that I have with you all.
Well.
Thank you, Rami, for this. Sami was a student in Princeton University for his PhD, and he asked a couple of friends of us in Princeton, I have a small paper of 20 pages, I want to write a story. And Rima, my friend, says, oh my God, we have the Hakawati, we have the storyteller. The woman sit in one side when we get together, talk about food and children. She's sitting with the men talking politics. So she has so many stories, will be interesting. So he came and interviewed me to write the paper. We got an A, and he says to me, wow, you have a story. So I took it every Wednesday to sit and record my story. And I kept doing that from 2006 to 2010. And 2010, we graduated his PhD and done and get a job. I said, let's go to Palestine. Let's meet those people. I've been recording about them. So he came in, stayed 10 days with me in Kufr Ra'i, met my parents, crossed the border, saw the living and going through checkpoints, and then came back so excited to start emptying the recording, started writing the book. And this is how the book came to life. And then COVID hit, was supposed to be published by Stanford University around 2019, and COVID hit, and it went back. But then it came right after October 7, and it was like, tell people that the Palestinian struggle did not happen in October 7. No. This book is telling you this has been going on for years and years, and this is how my family has been struggling since 1948 under the occupation. And this is the condition for prisoners since Iyad was in prison. Indeed, Baha was in prison. Indeed, my sister Sireen was in prison. Like, the family went through a lot, one family. So imagine those people in Gaza, and I cry because it did not get solved. It's not I'm telling a story happened in the past and Iyad and done. I'm telling a story, I'm seeing it every day on TV. I'm seeing people like my mom lost home. I'm seeing people like my mom lost children, lost everything. So that's why I see prisoners being sentenced to years and years and years with minor crime is resistance and asking to live and be educated and have peace like any other people in this land. So that's how it is. Thank you, Rami. Now it's your turn. Sorry.
Thank you, Sireen. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to the pastor and the parish for hosting us. I'll just make a couple of quick comments, and then we'll open it up for questions. I was born in 1948, so my whole life has been the story of Palestinian exile. And I've read dozens and dozens of great books about Palestine, but this one is really special. And when I was asked to to moderate this, I said, well, send me the book, let me see it. And when I read the book, it was spellbinding, even for me as a Palestinian. And I'll just give you a couple of quick comments about why. Because the real story of what makes the Palestinian people extraordinary is that their ordinary life is so powerful. And this book gives you direct interaction with the ordinary dimensions, all the dimensions of a Palestinian family. The house, the garden, the fruit trees, the livestock, the neighbors, the religion, the politics, the exile, the subjugation, the repression, the imprisonment, the killing, the torture, the immigration, university studies. Every aspect of life of an ordinary Palestinian family is captured in her family's story. And I think this is what makes this so special. And she tells the story in a very narrative way. She's not saying this is a great portrait of Palestinian political life. She's saying this is my family. This is what we experienced. And it's in the ordinary that you find the extraordinary nature of the Palestinian people. And it's not because the Palestinian people are extraordinary. It's because they've been subjected to one of the great criminal deeds of the 20th and 21st century, which is having their land taken away and being sent into exile. And it's still going on in Gaza. I mean, Gaza today just accentuates what the Palestinians have experienced for about 100 years. This started around 1920 when the British decided to support the creation of a Jewish homeland in Palestine, which was 93% Arab, including my family in Nazareth. So the real power of this book is it lets you understand what an ordinary Palestinian family goes through and the persistence of their daily life routines of marriage and home and children, and despite all the terrible things that they're subjected to by the Israeli occupation or exile or attacks, and now even the destruction in Gaza, they continue on with their rituals, with their daily, weekly, and their annual rituals. And this is nothing, not because the Palestinians are special, it's because the Palestinians are ordinary, normal people. And the same thing is going on in the Ukraine, the same thing went on in South Africa, the same thing went on in Afghanistan and Vietnam, anywhere under slavery in the South and the US, anywhere you have a situation of political subjugation or warfare, the people who are subjected to this react with their fundamental humanity. And the way they express their fundamental humanity is that they go on with their daily life. And if they're beaten, they come back and continue their life. If they're exiled, they try to sneak back in. If they're prevented from doing their work, they go find another job. And this is really a portrait of humankind at its best, told through the lens of one family in one village in one part of Palestine. And if there's one common theme, and I'll finish with this, it's that it's the theme of resistance and how resistance is manifested in every dimension of life, of continuing to study, to continuing to plant your fruit garden, your olive groves, your wheat fields, to raise your chickens, send your kids to school, get married, open a business, get a university education. It's the ordinary actions of life, and then the art, the creativity of the Palestinian people. Like every people in the world, they just get on with life because continuing a life as normal as possible, as they can possibly make it, is the ultimate form of resistance. It's that they can absorb more than the oppressor can subject them to. And they just get on with life, and that's what they want to do. So I just make those quick comments. And then there's the armed resistance, which is something separate, the political resistance, which is something separate, and then the critical role of the prisoners, Palestinian prisoners in Palestinian national life, but that's for another day. But I just wanted to emphasize how powerful and special this book is in presenting not only the story of this family and this Palestinian people, but actually capturing what every one of you probably feels and reflects in your own life, whether you're African American or Jewish or Hispanic or Italian American or white American. It doesn't matter what you are. You've probably been subjected to bad practices by other people, or oppression or discrimination or something, and you get on with it. And you will find in this book a mirror of every family that you belong to or that you know. So I'll stop with that and open it up for questions that people have to Sireen.
Thank you, Rami. Thank you.
You can ask about anything. Please, is there a microphone?
Okay, good.
It's taped, isn't it? Wait, hang on. It's taped. Pass this one around and we can keep this.
Go ahead.
You discussed about your brother being involved in the resistance and the Intifada. I was just curious, what was his involvement? Why was he the focus of the Israeli? I know, many teenagers who threw rocks were then attacked and their houses were attacked. I know the history of that. But specifically, what was your brother's involvement and what made him such a target of the Israelis at such a young age?
Yeah. So we are Atfal al-Hijara, the children of the stone. I don't know if you guys read the book of Tolan, the children of the stone. So me and him and all of us, we were young during that time, First Intifada, the first uprising. And I was in school. We will just, guys, if somebody walked into the building and says, today the Israeli military is entering the village, come on, roll a couple of tires of cars, set them in fire. The village has one street, beginning of end. If the Israeli soldiers enter, they have to go back in the same street. So our balcony will be full of rocks, the tires, old car tires already in the road by the time they're arresting somebody and coming back. And for example, try to free them. In the book, I talk about me in high school, how two students from my classmate were shot and killed by the Israeli soldiers just because we were throwing rocks. Iyad started from young age like us, throwing rocks. Me left to Jordan to college with the First Intifada, and then Iyad kind of like, oh, I'm taking the torch after. So he started as a young boy who is a hero, batal. He is blocking the Jaish or the Israeli soldiers from coming to the village and arresting so and so. But then later, when that young age, he and a couple of young boys, I don't want to spoil the book. By the way, Sami, if he's here, he will say, so many things Sami want to take off, like we should not expose the family. I says, no, I want the book, the good and the bad and the ugly. I'm honest, I'm not hiding anything. They start getting to the traitors, the collaborators, the people who are collaborating with Israel. And he and a bunch of boys will take them for interrogation. Why you're spying on us? Why you're doing this and that? And that was his first time when he was sentenced. It took him 8 years to be sentenced. And when you're not sentenced in the Israeli prison, your family cannot visit you. So every 6 months, he will have a military in Beit El court. My mom with the lawyer showed up, come in for a few seconds, and the general in that military court will say, 6 months. And then we'll move and move and move. And then when finally he gets sentenced, and we could visit him, and that's why I went in 1999 to visit, he was sentenced for the most extreme sentence for that job. But then, I don't want to spoil the book, you're going to see how he's going to turn in prison. You cannot be in prison as a young boy in this age with senior prisoners like Thabit Mardari, I talk in the book, was sentenced to 400 years in prison, like many, many years in prison. And other prisoners who he ended up met in prison and start Iyad from being never pray or fast in Ramadan to memorizing the Quran, and a very religious young man I was surprised when I saw him in 1999. And I talk about it in the book. When he saw me, he says, why you not covered? How dare you walk into prison with the jeans and a t-shirt to visit me? Don't do that again. Like, this is how Iyad was religiously things. So he started with throwing the rocks and tires and blocking the Israeli soldiers from coming arresting young boys like his age from school, to ended up to a heavier resistance. When you read the book, you will learn more about it. Yeah.
Just one other point I'll make related to that. The idea of resistance is often in the media and the political world is often talked about in military resistance, but the power of resistance is in the way that ordinary people manifest their rights and their humanity and their attachment to a piece of land or their home, but they manifest it in a non-military way. They manifest it in a cultural way, and it's the determination to just get on with their life and live a normal life. And it's instinctive. It's not taught. I'll give you one little anecdote from our family. When I went to college, so we're from Nazareth, and my father was actually in New York as a journalist covering the partition debate in 1947. And when Israel was created, he was not allowed to go back. So he stayed in New York. He was lucky he got a job at the United Nations and communications. He was a journalist. And then I was born in New York. And when I went to college in the United States, we lived in Lebanon, we lived in Jordan, we lived in Switzerland, we lived all over the world with the UN. When I went to college, in 1967, and our parents never sat us down and said, you're Palestinian, we're Palestinian. We never had any explicit, acculturation or indoctrination. But when I went to college, I saw that I was different from, I was here in New York, in upstate New York, and there was lots of pro-Israel activity after the '67 war and other stuff, and there was public events and stuff taking place. And I realized that the Palestinians were not really speaking up for themselves. Nobody was doing very much for them. So I was asked by people to speak in debates and things when they knew I was a Palestinian journalist. So I wrote to my father and I said, please, Baba, send me some information. I need to know about the history of Palestine. I didn't know a lot of details. And I said, send me a flag. So he did. 30 years later, when my children went to college, here in the United States, we were living in Beirut. After a few years, each one of them wrote to me and asked for a flag and information on Palestine. And we had never sat them down and said, you're Palestinian. It just instinctively came because people realized, as did Jews in Europe in 1910 and Russia in 1890, they realized that they were not accepted in that society as full normal citizens. They were discriminated against. And as did African Americans and other people who were discriminated against in different societies. So it's instinctive. You resist because you want to exist. Resistance is existence, and it's your humanity. And this is what comes out in the story, again, so beautifully in the daily routines of life, which is one of the reasons I recommend this book so highly.
When my mom, of course, every time Iyad hear the soldiers, tanks, whatever he's eating or doing something, he jumped and he ran to follow the kids throwing rocks in them. She used to say, come back, they're gonna kill you. He used to say, wal ya hajji, haram إذا ضحيتي بولد لهالوطن. Wow. It's not fair, like you should sacrifice one of your children to this land. So he always thought he's the sacrifice to the land. And he will laugh and he will continue. And he will say, don't worry, راح يهدوا البيت, they're gonna bomb the house. I spent years building it. The house from the 2-bedroom and a bathroom and a kitchen ended up with at least 16 rooms. We have 2 full kitchen, 1 upstairs, 1 downstairs. We have 2 full bathroom with a seat and a bathtub now. Like the woman, wherever my father sent her money, she's not buying gold, she's not buying jewelry or clothes for her. She's adding to the house to accommodate the 13 children. So she was always fearing the house راح يروح. He will tell her, God will build you one in heaven. Don't worry about the house. And when they bombed the house, actually, the first thing he called her, she's crying, of course, she was crazy and lost everything and all memory. He says, don't worry, I will make sure God will build your house in heaven. And he laughed and hung out. Like literally, life and material things meant nothing to Iyad. Meant nothing to Iyad. All his was thought he has to do all he can do to end the occupation. If he could not, the generation next, but he wants to set that role model example. And I'm talking about somebody who did not finish high school until he was in prison, his education. But somebody who in prison asked me about, did you try to visit Cuba? Did you learn about the Cuban Revolution? And literally, I was like, wow, you know that? Like, he gets really educated from other prisoners and senior prisoners who has college education and higher education outside prison and ended up in prison. He was in 2 prisoners from PhD doctors from Gaza for years in the same cell. So he was really, it was for him, he knew he's gonna die. He knew, I'm running now, I'm running later, I'm in prison, sooner or later, I'm gonna die for this country. And he did not mind it. He was like ready for it. Ready for it, yeah. It just like shocked me how, the way he speaks, the wisdom from a young kid and the peaceful, nice voice. It just like, it shocked me for a person who, maybe I moved to the West and I changed my view in life and needs than his view in life and needs. So that's how much Iyad was into the Palestinian cause. Yeah, thank you for your question. More? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi.
Hey.
I was just curious if you're making any effort to get the book in the hands of somebody that might be able to turn it into a film. I was interested to see the Hind Rajab film at Cannes received a 25-minute standing ovation. There seems to maybe be an interest in these stories now. The tide is turning.
Yeah, sorry, thank you. I would love to. Actually, I went with Iman, my cousin in California. She's here visiting Boston, and she graduated from here. We visit Nabulsi. She's the producer of The Teacher, and we watched The Teacher, and I gave her the book as a free copy, and I says, listen, one day I want to see a movie about this. As soon as the movie The Teacher came in, I cried the whole movie, asked Iman, because the scene of the sofa is, I don't know how many of you watched the Teacher, came out of the house. We still have a sofa came out from my house. Like so many scenes in that movie, it's there. It's my family story. Him and how his brother was, and it's the same thing with my brother reaction when my brother was killed. Like it's so much. I wish I was in Qatar for a book talk, and then I flew to Dubai to visit my sister last year, and I met a Syrian producer by accident in a restaurant, and my friend says, I introduce you, she has a book, it's gonna come in Arabic next year. He gave me his business card and he said, I would like to do an Arabic film in it. But I would love to do something about it. It's very, even the cover of the book, I spent days back and forth. They have a man riding in a donkey coming down. And I was like, what? Donkey? Is the Orientalism? Is the stereotype about Palestinian? I want al-Aude. I'm back all the time. My back to the West, I'm going back to Palestine. That's my village. That's pictures from my street when I walked into my house. That's picture of the Palestinian trees. That's picture of the Palestinian home. So I insist even in the cover and the name. Took us a while with the name. Some when it's serene story, some serenity, some the olive trees, some mother, some, and it just Sami and his wife and me. We sat, and then his wife, we put a list of names, and his wife says, how about my brother Mailan? And everybody's like, yes, my brother Mailan. So yeah, I would love to. And it's translated to Arabic, and we have a couple of people, one from Italy, one from Japan, and one from France is negotiating with Stanford University to translate it to other language. I will be so happy to see it, because it's not just I want to keep the memory of Iyad, I want to keep the memory of all the Palestinian people who lived and struggled under the occupation. My aunt Aida died last summer. She never had children. And when we were young, every time she come and visit from a city called Arabi, she will say, لما أموت وفلسطين تتحرر تعالوا على القبر وقولوا لي. So she used to tell us, promise her, if she died before Palestine is free, to go to her grave and say to her in the grave, Palestine is free. And now it's hit me. I have to tell it to my children, and I want my children to tell it to their grandchildren. But I always said I would love to be a Palestine is free in my lifetime and your lifetime, so we can all meet and enjoy and come to Kufr Ra'i and try my mom olives and olive oil, which is she shipped me cans to here to the US. And my fig tree in my backyard in New Jersey, the 2 branches of figs is from my mom trees in Kufr Ra'i. She smuggled me 2 little pieces to plant, and I've been eating figs from them. I bring Palestine with me to my home, literally. From the olive to the fresh goat homemade cheese, to her spices, to her za'atar, which is she picked it from the mountain, dry it and make it at home fresh for me every summer when I go, from the Rami, the sage, and all of that. So I always tell people, he said, we did not know, my children born in New York, the 3 of them, but every summer go to Palestine. When they were here, in that time, in the 90s, if you don't enter before 1 year, you cannot get your mom's citizenship. Before they are a year, I'm running with them to Palestine to have al-Hawiyya, Tasrih, the Palestinian document, the Israeli document, and the 3 of them carry Palestinian citizen. And when they cross the border with me and we get interrogated for hours why we're here and it's our land, and they always held me, because as soon as they see Sireen Sawalha, they know Iyad Sawalha. They says, why you give us the citizen? We could already flew to Tel Aviv, we already be Kufr Ra'i a few hours ago. And I says, because you're Palestinian. You need to know what your grandmother and your uncle and your aunt and your cousin go through every time they go to Palestine. And they do this in purpose. So you guys can give up and fed up and hate to go. But then yesterday, my son Basil, the oldest one, called me and says, Uncle, my brother and everybody is going to see my mom next week. I just got a ticket. I'm going for 10 days. My kids always afraid. They always go with me. And in the border, they're clinching to me. Don't say anything. Don't answer rude. Don't be loud. Don't intimidate them. I'm afraid they're going to send us back. They're always fearing they're going to send them back because they're going to go to, they're looking forward every summer to go. And last year with all of this, I took them. And for 15 days, we could not open the window in my mom's house because Jenin and the camp was under attack and the drones would not let us sleep. But they were happy. We're all inside that room. We're all eating on the floor together. Where they seeing that my mom has no meat for a week. They're happy. They're eating the lentil. They're eating the mujaddara. They're eating whatever she has dry in the house. So I want them to have Palestine in their heart, in their mind, in their homes, and their children, and their grandchildren. And I hope, and my dream, with the help of all of you, that I would not need to tell my grandchildren, come to my grave and tell me if Palestine is free. I really wish, I hope and pray in this holy place that we all see it in our lifetime. Yeah. Inshallah. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi. Question for Mr. Khouri. I'm wondering if your views of Hamas changed over the last 2 years, and if
your
if
view
so,
of Hamas.
How?
I didn't hear it well.
Your view of Hamas changed in the past 2 years.
If it did, how?
Well, that's not the theme of this talk, but I'll give a couple of comments. Is this working? You hear it? Okay, because I
Said
can't
we can
hear it.
ask anything.
Yeah, so I co-edited this book. We did a talk about it months ago here, Understanding Hamas and Why That Matters. Hamas, like the Islamic Jihad that the Iyad was in and all of the groups, Fatah, whatever. Is that better? All right. So Hamas is important not because of what they do, but because of what they represent. The reason Hamas is popular is because it has maintained, with the most integrity of any of the Palestinian political groups, it has maintained the common national consensus on the political rights and national rights that the Palestinians demand, and that they are willing to negotiate on in a permanent peace coexistence agreement with Israel. The Israelis don't want to negotiate. That's why they're trying to kill the Palestinian Hamas leaders, and they've killed dozens of others. But Hamas is very consistent in its position, and one of the important roles that Hamas played was in the prison. The prisoners, this is a whole side of Palestinian life. The role of the Palestinian prisoners, it's estimated that something like 30 or 40% of all Palestinian men have been to prison in the occupied territories. And there's about 20,000 in jail. But the prisoners maintained a political dialogue among all the different groups, because you had religious groups, secular groups, nationalist groups, all kinds of different political groups, Fatah, PFLP, etc. But they maintained a consensus, a dialogue to reach a common position that they all agreed on, which the political leadership outside of prison were unable to do for various reasons, mainly because they were pressured by external actors in the Middle East and abroad. But Hamas and the prisoners and Fatah in prison, people like Marwan Barghouti, were able to reach the consensus. And that consensus lives today in the positions of Hamas. And as you've seen in the Gaza situation, even under these terrible conditions, Hamas is prepared to negotiate, to be pragmatic on some issues, but not to give in on the ultimate goals, which is that we Palestinians must have our national rights simultaneously with the Israelis and to an equal magnitude. Not like Oslo gave us, that you have some rights for a little period of time, and if you behave, you might get more. That's the old colonial way, which is done. They don't play that game anymore. So that's Hamas's importance. They haven't evolved in any significant way other than becoming more militant and better organized, and they've paid a heavy price, as has all of Palestine. But this is the story of liberation. Any liberation movement goes through a similar experience and ultimately prevails, as happened in almost all liberation movements in the world. So when you look at Hamas, look at their political position and understand that this represents really the vast majority of all the Palestinian people, and that's why they're significant.
Well, thank you so much. That's an amazing story. And I'm just wondering if you have planned your next book, because you humanized Palestinians in this story very much, and I would love to see if you would be considering telling more stories about Palestinian prisoners who are often forgotten. And thank you for Dr. Khouri mentioning how many are in Palestinian prisons, and these are hostages, and nobody talk about them.
Nobody talk about them.
And there are a lot of stories that need to be told about them. And I wonder if you would be considering something like that, you know, knowing that your brother went through it, and probably you know a lot from your village and friends who went through it. Thank you.
So about the next book, last year Takween in Kuwait took the right for the Arabic version. So I went to Kuwait, and then they hire a translator. She translated the first 3 pages in Arabic, and she gave it to me before my book talk in Kuwait. And And in the stage we talked, and she got up. She was the first person to answer, to ask. I did not know she's sitting Iman Asad in the audio between the people. And she says, Sireen, can you please, the 3 pages I gave you, rip them and throw them? Because she heard me how I speak, and she wanted to translate in Arabic my way. And I laughed and I says, your 3 pages ended up 6 pages, because I've been, as soon as I arrived from the US, I went to Kuwait for only 2 days. I arrived one night and left the next day for the book talk. I says, I get to the hotel, I asked the reception to print it out for me. If you look at the 3 pages, they ended up 6 pages, because everything, that's not me, not the way I talk, not the way I want the Arabic version. So we end up last summer, I went to Palestine with the kids, spent 15 days with my mom, and then I met her in Amman, Jordan, and we'll meet every morning in Amman from 9 to 3, translating the Arabic version with her. My own time, my own expenses, like literally, I'm not getting anything other than that. I want my story to be read the right way, the way I want it, and my voice the right way my voice is. So she, while we're meeting and talking, she says, where are you? You're not much present in the book as what you went through as a woman. And she wanna put me in contact, and she wants me to start writing about the Palestinian woman in the resistance, the Palestinian woman in prison, because my sister Ursuline was in prison too, later on in life, and the book was already going to the print, so she did not make it to the book. And then the Palestinian woman daily life under the occupation, and their emotion and losing family members and children, and how I dealt with the loss of my brother. And it gets me that idea, because as a Palestinian, I moved to the US and I work in the UN, but then 18 years ago, I ended up getting divorced, and my ex left the country and left me with the 3 children. So I have to quit my job, go back to college, get a degree and master degree in education, become a social study teacher. But then the first job I was hired 3 years later, our students wrote, wake up, we have a terrorist teacher among us. And the school fired me. The next day, fire me. And who's gonna hire you after that? I ended up getting hired by a teacher who was in my old school, ended up a supervisor in another district later on. But I have to drive an hour and a half each way in the morning for job. And then last night, when October 7 happened, the police coming to my work. One of the parents called when she found out who I am and says, oh, she's Palestinian, she's a threat to my children. So the principal and the superintendent has to call all my 120 students, interrogate them for 3 days. Are you fearing this Muslim Palestinian teacher? And then last week, they posted on Instagram, let's fire this terrorist. She's brainwashing our kids to hate the liberal country, the freedom, the blah, blah, blah of Israel. So I'm targeted in the US. I'm on all. My supervisor, my superintendent got 4,500 emails first day of school to get me fired. But I'm tenure, thank God, in the school. So the union is behind me. But if I was not tenure, I would be struggling over and over as a Palestinian, even to speak about the cause, to speak about my brother, to speak about my family. So that's what Iman is pushing me, to talk about me as a woman and how I'm torn between 2 worlds. I go to Palestine, I'm not covered in hijabi, the American is here. I come to the America, the Palestinian is here. So who I am? I'm between the 2 worlds. I'm not Palestinian enough to be Palestinian, and I'm not an American enough to be an American. Last week, my principal told me a lot of parents came in and asked their children to drop your class when they found you're going to be teaching them. I teach senior AP courses, and I teach 10th grader. And he said, but there is a bad and good to the story. One of the parents, when she went home, she called her son in college and says, I can't believe the principal, he refused your brother to change his social study teacher. We don't want her, she's a terrorist. And he said, who, what's her name? And she gave my name. He says, are you crazy? She's the best teacher I ever had. Let him stay with her. So she was kind enough to lift the phone and call the principal back and says, I am so sorry, I regret coming with these 2 parents or with those 10 parents, because no, I don't want my son to pull out of her. So I've been harassed. I've been getting threats. I've been threat to lose my job. I support 3 children. I want all 3 children graduated college now, but I put them by myself to college without any family support, which is not in Palestine to send me money or support me, or without their father even. So that's the next version was the Palestinian woman in diaspora and in land, how we keep going. And education, how important. I was doing my master's degree when my son is in college. This summer I did a second master's degree over the summer, courses online, 30 credits, while I was in vacation visiting family, and here I am every night, I'm online and Zoom and internet studying. And my mom says, when are you gonna stop? I don't know. The day I go to the grave, I will keep learning, I will keep educating myself, I'll keep speaking, and I don't want to get tired of that, because that's, like he said, the Palestinian people, we insist. When you watch Gaza, doctors and engineers and everybody has to have an education, and not just an education, even higher education. And you see the parents, when they lose everything, the home and 5, 6 children, they pray and say, Alhamdulillah, thank God. And it just, like, it's amazing. Like, I talk about a loss of one child, so I'm amazed how people are dealing with losing everything in Gaza, or losing 2, 3 generations of their family in there, and the struggle people in Gaza has been going through, and Jenin camp and Tulkarem. Like yesterday, my sister in Tulkarem was kicked out of her house by Israeli soldiers a few days ago. You see it in Al Jazeera, there in front of her house, 1,000 people in Tulkarem was 2 days ago. That's my sister's house. Her brother-in-law is the mechanic. You see the tires in the pictures, while thousands of soldiers. They took it. They live in her room, they sleep in her bed, they're eating her food. She has to go to Kufr Ra'i with her 2 children and her husband and stay with my mom, and God knows when she could have her house back. So that's the struggle the woman has to deal with. The husband was beaten and taken to the hospital, and she has to drive in the middle of the night. It's not an easy to drive from Tulkarem to Kufr Ra'i, Jenin, in the middle of the night with 2 children, and don't put the light of the car, because settlers could see the light of the car and shoot from up there. She made it to my mom's house, and she slept to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We could not even talk to her, because Arceline, since she was in prison, she struggled a lot. And when she faced this, her feet start shaking and she lose her voice. And I've been there in situation we got interrogated in the checkpoints, how she react from fear when she sees soldiers. So the woman in prison, there is no voice about their experience too, and with the struggle they went through. So yes, hopefully. Thank you.